Pattern programming in Java is nothing but a pattern made by arranging alphabets, characters, or special characters. The programming of patterns is useful in increasing the logical ability and thinking ability of a programmer. So, in this course, we will talk about printing different patterns like a sandglass, pyramid, triangle, inverse triangle, etc. using Java programming. Constructs like for loop, nested for loop, and do while loop. So, if pattern programming in Java fuels the little fire of interest in your mind, then stay tuned to learn more about the same. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new update or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoy this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing, so make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video for any query or suggestions and I will respond to your comments.
Hello guys, welcome to the session where I'll be talking about pattern program in Java. So before going ahead, let me tell you what is the agenda for the session, what all I am going to talk about in this particular video. So I'll be talking about what is pattern program first of all, and different aspects of it, like why is it required to study that, what are the different programming constructs which is important here to know when it comes to programming of pattern programs. Then I'll talk about the different number pattern programs. Also we'll see few examples and write down the code for it using Java programming language. Then we'll see what is star pattern program, and further going ahead we'll talk about odd number pattern program, like the odd number starting from 1. How can we print different patterns with the help of only the selected odd numbers from the given natural number? Then we'll talk about alphabet pattern program. Then going ahead, I'll talk about also the binary number pattern program, that is the different patterns which we can create with the help of binary numbers, that is zeros and ones. So this is all I'm going to discuss in today's session. So let's get started. So let's see now, what is pattern program? So first of all, when I say pattern program, what exactly is this programming all about? So in this, you have to draw or display or print different patterns. That is, different ways you have to arrange the given numbers, given a star or any character. You have to arrange those things into a given or some defined pattern or some defined way. Okay. And for example, suppose I want to draw a pattern with the help of alphabets, and that can be any pattern. Pattern meaning some kind of a design. For example, if I want to draw alphabets such that I start from A, then I print A, B, then I print A, B, C, and then I should print A, B, C, D, and so on. Like suppose I want to print till 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So A, B, C, D, E. This is a fixed pattern. With pattern meaning it follows some specific way. That is, it's not zigzag representation, right? Meaning if I'm printing A in the first line, and then I'm printing C in the next line, then I'm printing B here, then I'm printing Z here, then I'm printing F here. It's not some random things being displayed, right? It is following a set pattern, a set rule you can see here. It is starting from first one letter, then in the next, on the second line, 2 letters, third line, 3 letters, fourth line, 4 letters, meaning some kind of relationship is there between the characters and the number of rows or number of lines being printed. So this is your pattern. Okay. Now you can have patterns of alphabet. You can have patterns of numbers also. Like for example, I want to print 1 here, then I want to print 1, 3 here, then 1, 3 and 5 here. Right? This is what? These are all odd numbers. First 1 is odd number, 1, 3 is odd number, 1, 3, 5 is odd number. So it is doing what? It is going on printing the odd numbers. In the first line, 1 odd number, second line, 2 odd numbers, third line, 3 odd numbers, and so on. Right? So this is your arrangement of numbers in a given pattern. Similarly, you can have some special character, you can have it arranged. For example, the very famous and a popular one is your star. I can have star symbol printed. Like I can start from, like first line I want this star, then I want these 2 stars like this to be printed here. Then I want 3 stars to be printed in this sequence. Then I want 4 stars after this to be printed in this sequence. So this is one pattern, right? So these are the examples of different patterns that can be created with the help of alphabet, numbers, and different characters. One of the character widely used is star. And all these can be programmed using any programming language. Now, what are the coding concepts that are required from Java that you need to know to write down a program for these, patterns? So these are the looping constructs which you need. That is your while loop, for loop, do while loop, and nested for loop. Okay. While loop, right? It is like while, and then there will be a condition here. And then going on, there will be the body of the while loop. That is, if the condition is true, then this body of the while loop will be executed. Similarly, for loop. For loop will have like three parameters to this for loop is there, separated with semicolon. And then there is body of the for loop. These three has initialization condition, termination condition, and increment, right? This is your about initialization. Suppose I am using I variable. This is initialized to some value. This is your termination condition that I should be always greater than 10. Then only this loop should run. And this is your increment that I should increment every time by 1, suppose, or it should decrement every time by 1, whatever is your increment decrement condition. So this is your for loop. Similarly, do while loop is there, where first you have to write what action has to be done. Okay, the action here, and then the condition will be there, which is checked. The difference between these two is in this first, once the loop is executed, then the condition is checked. Even if the condition is false, one time the code will be executed, right? So this is do while loop. Nested for loop. So nested for loop will be widely used here in writing a program for patterns. And what is this nested for loop and why this is being used is try to understand this. Suppose I talk about any pattern, like I'm talking about the very simple one, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I have to write a program for this, if I try to analyze this, you see here, if I divide this into a tabular format, then this is the first column. Okay. This is your second column. This is your third column. And this is your last column, right? Similarly, if I divide into rows, this is your first row, second row, third row, and this is your fourth row, right? Now, we know that in any programming language for matrix representation, we need two for loops. One will represent the rows and one will represent the column. That's why we use nested for loop here. That is, one for loop is needed for representing the rows. Suppose rows is a variable here to be used to represent rows. Then next for loop will be for columns. Okay. Rows is I, suppose this is J. So these two variables will be used for representing rows and columns. And that's the reason I'm saying that nested for loop will be widely used here to write down a program for these patterns. That is, rows will be represented with one of the for loop and another for loop will be used for looping over the columns. Okay. So these are the coding concepts you require from any programming language, but here we are talking about Java programming. So yeah, from Java programming, these are the coding concepts is required to write down a program for any kind of patterns. Now, why are we learning this pattern program first of all? So usefulness of this learning pattern program is from two perspectives. The first one is that whenever you are learning Java programming, okay, initially when you learn the looping constructs, all the for loop, while loop, if else statements, do while loop, you have learned about, and you want to practice pattern program practicing is the best way to practice looping constructs. Okay, you can, from various angles, you can explore the loops because patterns require a lot of concepts behind how to use these looping constructs. So that's one way from practice perspective. Second point here I would like to mention under usefulness of learning pattern program is that in interviews these questions are generally asked. Or if you go for any certifications, for example, AMCAT, if you go for that certifications there, then definitely if programming related certification it is, then definitely there will be one question on the pattern program. Why is that so? Because when any pattern is given to you, like suppose this is the pattern given to you, and if I ask you to write a program for this, you have to invest a lot of time and thought here to understand that how exactly can I convert this pattern into a program. Okay, and that requires a lot of logical thinking abilities, logical thinking skills, and an interviewer can test you on this point that if you are able to write down a code or understand that what should be the logic to print this pattern, then definitely somewhere you have a good no logical thinking or analytical thinking skills. Fine. These are the two perspectives from which I could say that usefulness of learning pattern program is really there. Okay. So that's all about your what is pattern program. Now let's talk about number pattern program in Java. So when I say number pattern program, it means I'm talking about displaying or creating any pattern with the help of numbers. Okay. For example, left triangle pattern, right triangle pattern, inverse pyramid pattern. So there are different patterns which have some name assigned to it. Some may not have any name assigned to it. But here I'm talking about these patterns actually. So here I'm arranging the number in a given way. That is your left triangle pattern, meaning I'll be arranging the numbers in this way: 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and so on. Suppose I want to just print till these 5 rows. Okay. So this is your left triangle pattern. Okay. If I talk about right triangle pattern, then it means same thing, but on the right angled. This is left angled, right? This is the right angle triangle is on the left side. Similarly, for right triangle pattern, the arrangement will be something like this: 1, then it will be 1, 2, then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Because here the right angle of the triangle is on the right side. So this is your right triangle pattern. Now, if I talk about inverse pyramid pattern, what is inverse pyramid pattern? So inverse pyramid meaning, you know how the pyramid looks like, right? The structure of a pyramid, something like this. But if I talk about inverse pyramid, meaning something of this format. So if I have to represent numbers in a inverse pyramid pattern, then how will I represent it? It will be like this: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then 4, 3, 2, then 3. Okay, so this can be the pattern, or you can have any numbers representation here, but in an inverse pyramid way. So this is what is all about the different pattern programs using numbers. Now let's go and check with the demonstration in Java programming for these number pattern programs. So first I will demonstrate you how to write down a code for left triangle pattern program. So let's go to the IDE and start writing the code. So here we are at the IDE. I'm using IntelliJ IDE here. You can use any platform to write Java code. That doesn't make any difference. The basic program concept remains the same. Now here, as I said, that to write a program for a pattern, we need to have the representation for rows and columns, because eventually we end up categorizing that pattern under a matrix, which will have rows and which will have columns, right? So let's write a program. We'll be using nested for loop here. So first for loop, that is the outer for loop, will be for the number of rows. The inner for loop will be for columns. Okay, so in left triangle pattern, that is what code we are going to write. What happens is, first row has only one letter, second row has two number, third row has three numbers, fourth row has four numbers, and so on, right? So let's have that written. So starting with for loop. Okay, before for loop, how many rows we have to print should be stored somewhere, right? Let us have one integer variable here for number of rows. And how many rows you want? I'm hard coding it. You can have it taken it input from the user also using scanner class, but I'm hard coding it here. You can change these values and see for different rows how the value is printed. Now let's go to the coding. So here first I'll have outer for loop for the number of rows. So number of rows is same as how much I have given here input. So this will be same as int I. It should start from 1 and I should be less than equal to the number of rows and I plus plus. Easy. Now I'll have another for loop for the columns. Let J represent the columns. Now columns will be like first row, there was only one letter printed. It means I want only one column value in the first row. Second row, there was two numbers printed. So two numbers, I want two columns for it. Then third row, there were three numbers printed. So three columns is needed. So that's how it goes, right? So it means what? That number of columns is same as the number of rows. Meaning the first row, there is only one column. Row number two, two column. Row number three column. Three column meaning three numbers I want to print there, right? So that's why this will start from I, and this will go till j is greater than equal to 1 and j minus minus. Okay, because we are printing from, like, first row there was 1, second row there was 2 1. So starting from 2 and decrementing. Then 3 2 1. Starting from 3, decrement 1 1. So after that 4, and then decrement by 1, 3, then 2, then 1. This was the pattern for left triangle pattern. So that's why here it is decrement. And then just write the print statement then. System.out.print. Be careful here to use print, not println, because println will take you to the next line. So here what you have to print? J. That is your number of columns itself, is your number of values in that row. So we'll close the for loop here. After this, after one row is printed, we should go to the next row. So for that, system.out.print ln will be used so that we go to the next line. Then closing of the for loop, closing of the main function, and closing of the class. Let's see the output for this. So you can see here the output is left triangle pattern, that is 1 2 1 3 2 1 4 3 2 1 5 4 3 2 1. I've given 5 rows here, so it is printing till 5 rows. Okay, so this for loop int I was for the number of rows starting from 1 to 5. The inner loop, that is j equals to I, was for number of elements in each row. So first row there is only 1, second row 2. So it is related to I only, right? It should start from I, and like second row. So I value is 2. So it is starting from 2, 2 1. Third row, I value is 3. So j should start from 3 and decrement 1 1, 3 2 1. This is fourth row. Fourth row, I value is 4. So j should start from where? I, that is 4, and decrement 4 3 2 1. So this is what the loop is. I hope this is clear to you. So this was the problem statement and the code for printing a left triangle pattern with the help of numbers. Now let us see the demonstration for number pattern program in Java, but for right triangle pattern. So let's go to the IDE and start typing the code for the right triangle pattern. So here I'm using IntelliJ IDE. You can use any other. And I've already created the class and the main method. Let's now start typing the code for right angle triangle pattern program for numbers. So again, here will be nested for loop concept will be used. So first for loop will be for number of rows, that is rows in the pattern, and second for loop will be for columns in the pattern. So outer for loop int I, that is equal to your 0. I will go till the number of rows. Okay, so we have to define here the number of rows, how much we want to print also. So I plus plus. Okay. Then there will be inner for loop as well, which will start from 2 into number of, okay, let me declare the variable here first. So int number of rows, let the number of rows initially be 4. So this will be 2 into number of rows minus 1. Okay, I'll tell you why is this here. J greater than equal to 0, and then j minus minus. Then again for loop start. Now, first in right triangle pattern, numbers are printed on the right side. But from the beginning, like the writing or displaying any text in computer starts from left only, right? So first you have to print some spaces. some blank things, blank strings, and then the number should come, right? The first row there are all blanks, and then one number will be there, that is 1. Second row there will be some blank, and then 2 and 1 will be there. Correct? This is your right triangle pattern. So that's the reason this first for loop is for printing those blanks. Okay, so here we'll print system dot out dot print. Don't forget to use print here, not println. So we'll print blanks here. So this for loop was for that. Now next for loop will be for actually int k equals to 1, or let it be same also, doesn't makes any difference. J less than equal to I j plus plus. Okay, why j plus plus? Because it will start printing from higher to lower. So first row it will be 1, second row 2 1, third row 3 2 1, then fourth row 4 3 2 1. So from 4 it has to decrement, from 3 it has to decrement, 2 it has to decrement, right? That's why it is from, it is starting from 1. Okay, this is not 1. Okay, yeah, j will start from 1. Fine. Your printing has to start from there. So it will be now system dot out dot print, and here you have to print j. Let it be separated by a space. Then once this for loop ends, before this for loop ends, we have to write system dot out dot print ln this time to go to the next line. So this is one simple program for, so let's execute this and check now. Okay, no, it's not giving us the output. There is some error with this. Let's check what's the error. So this should be, okay, this will be I. Let's check now. Yeah, so this was the mistake. Let's now change the number of rows so that more rows are printed. We can actually visualize what exactly is being printed here. So you can see here it prints 1 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4, right? So this is right angle triangle pattern for numbers. So this outer for loop was for each row. Okay, the inner for loop, the first for loop was for printing these spaces you can see here, right, before, because there should be some blank space, then 1 is printed, then some blank space, then 1 and 2 is printed. Now how many blank space should be left? That logic is with this, that it will start with 2 into number of rows minus I. So number of rows is 5. I will be, suppose initially for the first time it's 0. So 5 minus 0 is 5 itself. 5 into 2, that is 10. So it will start from 10, and uh, till it is 0 it will be printed. The blank space will be printed. This we can do greater than also, so that less space will be printed here. Let's check. So yeah, now this looks more better. So j greater than 0. So why it is 2 times here, not just number of rows minus I? 2 times because see we are printing j as well as the blank statement, right? So the last line, if you see, you can understand. So there are 1 2 3 4 numbers, and then 4 spaces also. Getting it? So it is 8 characters basically, 4 blank spaces and 4 numbers. That's why it is 2 times of number of rows here. Okay, and then the second for loop is for printing this numbers j, that is 1 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. Okay, that's all about the code for implementing right angle pattern for numbers. Now let us see the demonstration for number pattern program in Java, but this time the pattern is about inverse pyramid pattern. So let's go to the IDE and try writing the code for this inverse pyramid pattern. So I've already created a class here, and public static void main method also is there. Now I'm using IntelliJ IDE here. Now in this I'll be writing the code for inverse pyramid pattern. So inverse pyramid pattern is about like maximum numbers in first row, then one no less in the second row, and then one less from both side in the third row, and so on. Last row will be just one number. Okay, this is your inverse pyramid pattern. So for that also two for loops will be used, that is nested for loop I'm going to use. Let's write down the code now. So for the outer for loop, int I equals to 1. This will go till I less than equal to number of rows and then I plus plus. Okay, let me define this number of rows, how many rows I want. So number of rows initially, suppose I want 4, or let it be 5. Okay, so now it's defined properly. Now this is the outer loop for rows. Now the inner loop for columns. But now in columns, guys, there is a thing that you have to also print the spaces, right? And also print the numbers there. So one for loop will be there to print the blank spaces, and then one for loop will be there for printing the numbers. So let's do that. So first for loop I'm writing for printing the blank space. So for int j equals to 1, j will be less than equal to I and j plus plus. Okay, and here I'll be printing system.out.print just blank space. Okay, now the next for loop which I'm going to write will be for, let's take another variable int x equals to, this is for the numbers in every row, the actual number which I'm going to print. So x will be, suppose starting from 1, x will be less than, this time, number of rows minus I, not twice of number of rows minus I. Okay, because as many numbers, that many blank spaces has to be printed. This could be done together also, but this is one of the logic to print the statement. You can have many other logics also, guys. There is no problem with that. In this, there will be the print statement, that is system.out.print, and here I will be printing x separated with space. Okay. Once we come out of this for loop, so before the ending of this for loop, there should be another print statement for going to the next line, right? So this is the code for your printing inverse pyramid. Let's execute and first check, is it printing correctly? So you can see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 1. So the number of rows is 5 here. Okay, let me increase to 6 and check what is the output. So yeah, it's correct. So it's printing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 1. So this is your inverse pyramid, one of the way of printing inverse pyramid. There can be other ways of printing having inverse pyramid also, right? You could have like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then next line you can have 2, 3, 4, and then 3, 4, and then just 4. So different ways can be there. This is one of the way in the form of inverse pyramid I'm printing the numbers. Okay. The only you have to think is play with these for loops. So you can see here 2 for loops I have used, one for printing the blank statements, one for printing these numbers actually. Both are but for the columns in each row. Okay. The outer loop here will decide the number of rows. So for the first row, these 2 tasks will be done. Okay. That is from x equals to 1 till the number of rows minus I. So 6 minus I. So I is initially, for the first time it will be 1. So 6 minus 1 is 5. So starting from 1 to 5, it will print. Okay, it's x less than number of rows, right? So less than meaning 1 less than 5, that is 4. So from 1 to 4, it will print this. So that's what in first row it has printed 1 to 4. Clear? Second row meaning I value is 2. So when I value is 2 here, x will start from 1 itself. And number of rows is 6. This is fixed. 6 minus I value for the second row is 2. 6 minus 2 is 4. So I will start from 1 to 1 less than 4. That is 3. So 1, 2, 3. It will print in the second row. So this is how the logic is, and this is how you have to think and implement these pattern programs. So this was a demonstration for inverse pyramid pattern using numbers. Now let's talk about the pattern programs related to alphabets. So alphabet pattern program is basically what? It is different patterns and different ways of arranging the alphabets. Okay, so that it forms a pattern. It should not be some random arrangement of alphabets, but the arrangement of alphabets in a certain pattern is your alphabets pattern program. We'll try to see one of the example and its demonstration code in Java also. So as I said, you can arrange alphabets into different patterns and designs. The alphabets can be lowercase alphabets from A to Z and capital letters also A to Z. Okay. One of the example which we are going to see here is K-shaped pattern using alphabet. K-shaped pattern meaning something in this format should be drawn. This is K. So it means what? A pattern which draws A, B, C, D, suppose, then A, B, C, then A, B, and then A, then it should be again A, B, then A, B, C, then A, B, C, D. So basically this is nothing but it's forming a K, right? So this is your K-shaped pattern for alphabets. And the code which we are going to see is for this example itself. So here also again you can see if I divide this into two parts, we'll write a code for this part and then we'll write a code for this part, right? The lower part is inverse of the upper part. So whatever code we'll write here, we'll inverse it here. That will be the same thing. Now to write a code for the upper part, you need two loops again. Nested for loop will be used. One is for outer row, for the number of rows. The outer for loop will be for number of rows. The inner for loop will be for number of columns. You can implement the same code using do while also, guys. Just that little bit you have to change according to, like, for loop format is different or do while loop format is different. So accordingly you have to do the changes, but it can be used for that as well. I am going to write down this program using do while. Okay, but you can write it using for as well. So let's see the demonstration or the demo for the alphabet pattern program in Java. And the pattern which we are going to draw is a K-shaped pattern, that is arranging alphabets into the letter shaped as K. So let's go to the IDE and write down the code. So here I've already created a class example and main method is also there. Now let's write down the code here. So first you have to define int number of rows. Number of rows equals to, you can take any number of row, that is not important here. I'll take another variable as I'm going to use while loop here. So few initialization is required. Otherwise in for loop, while writing the for loop itself, there is initialization option. You can do that. So here I'm initializing I with number of rows -1. Okay, let me write this int. Okay, now we'll write the while loop. So while I is greater than equal to 0, we have to have the alphabets, right? So let's have the alphabets. Okay, the ASCII values I'm going to use, which I'll convert it to character while displaying. So that's why I'm just having a variable here as alphabets, which is initialized to 65. The first letter, a capital letter of, that is A, is represented using ASCII value 65, right? So that's what I'm initializing it over here. Now I'll have another variable, that is J. Now another while loop for columns. So int, okay, J is already initialized. So J less than equal to I. Till then, what we have to do is, we have to print now system.out.print, and what should be printed here? Okay, we have to convert it into character first of all. And what should be converted to character? Alphabet plus J. So starting from 65, 65 will be A, then 65 plus 1, 66 will be B, and so on, right? So that's what is being done here. And then also the space should be printed here. So I'm just appending it. So this while loop ends here. This while loop ends here. So before this while loop ends, we have to do what? System.out.println, and this value of I should be decremented. Value of I should be decremented. Yeah. Now let's run this half code and see, are we getting the output? Okay. It went into infinite loop. So some stopping condition is missing. Let's check that. What is it? I is number of rows -1, while I is greater than equal to 0. Printed so many alphabets, 65 that too. So alphabet 65 int j0, j is less than equal to I, println alphabets plus j. Okay, so this should be converted. Okay, this will be in a bracket. So this complete alphabets plus j should be converted to char type, and then it should be appended with this. Okay. Okay, so this is what is missing. So here j should be also incremented, right? So j plus plus system.println, then I will be decremented. Okay, let's check now. So you can see the half part of the K letter is ready. Now same thing you have to write, but inverse of it. Like here we have started from number of rows minus 1. So there we'll start from 1 and then go ahead with till number of rows, right? So that's what is to be done. So this ends here. Okay. After this, now I will initialize I again. As I said, it will now go from 1. So I is initialized again, and then we'll write while loop. The same codes, just with the inverse logic, is what has to be written. Number of rows, while it is this, then again int alphabets will be 65, int j is equal to 0. Okay. And then again while loop for the inner condition for the number of rows. So j is less than equal to 1. So no, not 1, I. Then in that case, it should print system.out.print print. Okay, again, it should convert to char. And what should be converted to char? Alphabets plus j. Then you have to append to this space. I think this is fine. Now j will be again incremented here. Coming out of this while loop, now here it should be system.out.println. Go to the next line. And also this time we have to increment I, not decrement, but increment I. Okay, now let's run this code and check first, is the output correct? So you can see here that this is printed in the form of K alphabet, right? So as I have already once told you, let me go through the code. So the first part here, as I'm using while loop here, you can use for loop also, guys. But remember the logic is this only. The first, you have to write the code for first half and then the second half. Second half should be the opposite of this half. Okay. And if you carefully see, this is nothing but your inverse triangle pattern. This is correct triangle, right, left angle triangle, right? So you can, once you learn the basics of writing some patterns, then you will be able to, design the complex patterns as well. So this was all about the demonstration or code for displaying or printing pattern program with the help of alphabets, that too in a format of K, that is in the form of letter K. Now let's talk about star pattern program in Java. So what is star pattern program? So again the same thing, it's like drawing a pattern, but this time the character is a star. Okay, so different ways you can draw a pattern using star is nothing but star pattern program. Okay, for example, pyramid pattern, diamond pattern, sandglass pattern. So these are the name givens to some of the fixed style or fixed way of drawing these characters star. There can be other patterns as well. So pyramid pattern, when I say, it means what? I'm arranging the star, that is a special character star, in a form of pyramid. So how is the structure of pyramid? This way, right? So first star, and then these 2 stars here, then 3 stars here, and then 4 stars here. This is your pyramid pattern. Okay, talking about diamond pattern. So diamond pattern is something like this. So maximum number of stars in the first row, then one less in the next, then one less in the last. Again, this is decrementing, then again you have to increment. From 1, the next row should have one more than this. Next row should have one more star than the previous. And whatever is the number of rows you want to print, it prints like that. So it is something where replication of the first part to second part, right? So this is your diamond pattern. This is also like sandglass pattern. Sandglass pattern is also somewhat similar to this. It has a decreasing pattern, then again increasing pattern. Okay, so these are the different ways you can arrange the star special character. And some patterns are given names, as I said, pyramid pattern, diamond pattern. Some pattern may not have any name also, but the point is every pattern which you have to draw has to be thought logically and have to be programmed in a same way, or you can not same, you can in a similar way using nested for loop concept or some if else conditions and so on. So how we'll do the programming for this? Suppose pyramid pattern, if I want to do the programming, so this thing has to be divided into a matrix format, that is rows and columns. So if I divide it into rows, this is how it will be. So first row only one, second row two, third row three, fourth row four stars. Now number of columns will be divided also. It is something like this. Right. So in this, if you see, there are some spaces also to be printed. These spaces we don't take into count, which are after the last thing. This doesn't count into programming, because if this is printed and if we leave it blank, these are nothing but spaces only, right? It doesn't show anything here. So we are only bothered about these spaces that comes in over here, right? So we'll have one loop for the rows, and in the columns we'll have two rows. One row for the space and the second row for the one for loop for spaces and another for loop for these character star. Okay, this is for pyramid. If I come for diamond pattern, how can we do the programming? So in this, first we have to write down the code. One for loop will be for this part and the second for loop will be for this part. Okay, how? Like we'll divide first this part into number of rows and columns. Okay, but it is something like inverse pyramid, and this is normal pyramid pattern. So we'll have one for loop to print this. Again here one in this for loop, there will be two for loops inside that. Nested for loops will be there. One for spaces and one for characters. Similarly, in this also, there will be one outer for loop. Inside that, there will be two for loops, one for space and one for characters. Okay. So in this, there will be, in this complete diamond pattern program, there will be two outer for loops, and each outer for loop will have inside two inner for loops. One for space and one for star. Okay, so these are the two patterns with the help of, that can be represented with the help of special character star. Now let's see the demonstration of star pattern program, that is your pyramid pattern in Java programming. So let's go to the IDE and check out the code for this. So here's the IDE. I'm using IntelliJ IDE, and I've already created a class and main method here. So let's get started with the coding for pyramid pattern. So as I said, there will be one for loop for the outer loop for loop, that is for the rows. So let's write that. Okay, before that again, let's initialize few variables, that is number of rows, how many rows we want, number of rows. Let it be initialized to 5 initially. You can have any number. And also in this program, I'm going to use a temporary variable, which I'm going to initialize it now itself, which will also be equal to number of rows itself. But as I'm going to modify this temp variable, that's why I have taken it separately. Otherwise, I could have modified number of rows itself. But if I modify this, the whole value will change. This should be fixed. It should not be modifiable. So temp, I will modify according to the requirement. So let's have the outer for loop. So int I equals to 0. I will be less than number of rows, I plus plus. Okay. Now inside this, there will be two for loops, as I said. One for loop for blank, that is space, and one for loop for star. So for int j equals to 0, j less than equal to I, j plus plus. Okay. So this will just simply print system.out.print. This will just print space. Okay, come out of the for loop. Then next for loop will be for, let's take the variable to be x equals to 0 again. Okay, 1 second. No. This will be this if I print J itself. No, this I should print star itself here. This will be space. Before this, let me write for space. So for loop int J equals to temp. Why? That's why I have used temp here to modify it. So J will be greater than equal to 0, and then J will decrement every time 1. Okay, and then there will be system.out.print, and then will be space. Okay, so once we come out of this loop is over here, this loop will be over here. So before coming out of the final for loop, let's have one more print statement. Okay, this will go to the next line. So I think this is it. Let's execute the code and check. Is it drawing a pyramid pattern or not? So basically, no. So what went wrong? Let's check that. So this is the outer loop I0, I less than number of rows, I plus plus. J is temp, J greater than equal to 0, J minus minus, blank statement. Then J is equal to 0, J less than equal to, okay, not 1 here, it would be I and J plus plus. Okay, let's execute. Okay, it's not printing that. Or, okay, here I should decrement this as well, right? So temp is equal to temp minus 1. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, so you can see this is your pyramid pattern being printed. So let me revise the code for you. So this is nothing but this is outer loop, for loop, okay, which will start from 0 and go till a number of rows. Okay, if I'm starting from 1, I should go to I1 less than equal to number of rows. Or if I'm starting from 0, it should be I less than number of rows. No difference otherwise. Then two for loops again, one for printing spaces here. Like you can see there are some certain spaces before each star. So this is for this one. Okay. And then the next loop will be actually printing your star with a space along with that. So star space, star space. Now this one here it is no starting from number of rows itself, but it is greater than equal to 0 and J minus minus. So in every row it should print from the number of rows itself, but that will decrement every time over here. So because in the first row it should print like these many character like blank spaces, sorry, and this row it should print some less, this row it will be little more less, this also it will be little more less. How much less? One less each time. That's the reason I have decremented it over here. So this is the final code for writing a pattern program for pyramid pattern of star. Now let's talk about the demonstration of star pattern program in Java. The example is diamond pattern. So let's go to the IDE and check how we can write down the code in Java for diamond pattern. So here I have already created a class and the main method inside that. So let's now start writing the code. So for diamond pattern, we need to have no programming in no module wise. Like we have to first write a program for the first half of the diamond pattern, and then next half of the diamond pattern. So first half is in inverse pyramid, and the second half is the normal pyramid. So that's what the code I'm going to write. Okay, before that, how many number of rows we want? So int number of rows, let it be 4. Now let's write the for loop, the outer for loop, int I, which is equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. N is nothing but number of rows. Okay, this will be like this. Now in this, there will be again two for loops, one for space and one for star. So for int j equals to 0, j will be equal to, less than I, and j plus plus, and this will print what? System dot out dot print will print space here. Okay, this will for loop will close here. Then next for loop will start from int x equals to uh, x will be equal to number of row, no, I. Okay, and x will be less than number of rows, and then x plus plus. Okay, this will print what? The star. System dot out dot print will print star with a space. So shift star. Okay, right. Now we'll have, let's execute this and check. It should print the half pyramid. I know it's not print. Okay, okay. So this for loop ends, and then after that we have to, before ending of this for loop, it should be system dot out dot print ln to go to the next line also, right? Now let's check. So yeah, this half part of the diamond is printed. The next half is you have to increment starting from 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, and then so on. So let's write down the code again. The same code will be repeated. Same logic will be there, but somewhat different. So for int I equals to, this time it will decrement, right? So it will start from number of rows minus 1, and I will be, should be greater than equal to 0, and I minus minus minus. Okay. Now first for loop again for space, that is for int j, which is equal to 0. J will be less than I, j plus plus. So it should print system dot out dot print space, come out of this for loop. Next for loop for printing star. So int x equals to I, then x will be less than number of rows, and then x plus plus. Okay. After that, again it will print what? The star. So system dot out dot print what? Star. So it will print star and space. Coming out of this for loop, before this for loop ends, we have to go to the next line also. So system dot out dot println will be printed. Now that's it. Now let's execute it and check it gives the correct output. So you can see here, right? If the output is visible, you can see it is printed the diamond pattern. Okay. So we have to write two separate codes here. One for, so you can see if this part, if you visualize it is inverse pyramid, this is your normal pyramid. So two codes combined together makes your diamond pattern. So that's it for the demonstration of a diamond pattern program for stars in Java programming. Now let's talk about some patterns with respect to odd numbers. That is your odd number pattern program in Java. So what is odd number first of all? The number which is not divisible by 2, right? So that's your odd numbers. So odd number with the help of just selecting the odd number among all the natural numbers. So natural number starts from 1, right? So from starting from 1 among all the natural numbers, we have to select only the odd numbers and draw a certain pattern. Okay, that is your odd number pattern program. So in this, you have to arrange odd numbers in different designs and different patterns, starting from 1 till n, where you have to just select the odd number only. Okay, so first row meaning one odd number, second row you have to display two odd numbers, third row you have to display three odd numbers, fourth row you have to display four odd numbers. Now displaying of these odd numbers can be also in different pattern, correct? For example, I can display the odd number like 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 7. I can display the odd number in some other pattern also, like for example, 1, 3, 1, 5, 3, 1, 7, 5, 3, 1, This is also one pattern. This is also one pattern. So there can be multiple patterns, but the logic of writing program is somewhat similar. You have to use nested for loops and then write down a program here. So what example we are going to consider is how to create an inverse correct triangle pattern using odd numbers starting from 1. So it is inverse triangle pattern basically. Okay, meaning I have to print in the first row like 7 5 3 1, then I have to print 5 3 1, then 3 1, and then just 1. So this is what this example says. This is your inverse triangle pattern using odd numbers. So it is starting from 1, but it is ending at whatever value you want. Like suppose I wanted 1 2 3 4, 4 rows I have displayed here, right? So top 4 odd numbers will be taken into consideration. If I want 5 rows, so top 5 odd numbers will be taken into consideration. Okay. So this was all about your what is odd number pattern program. Now let's see the demonstration of the odd number pattern program in Java. And the example which we are going to write code for is the same, that is your inverse triangle pattern using odd numbers. So let's go to the IDE and check out the code. So here I have come to the IDE, that is IntelliJ IDE, and I'm going to write down the code here for inverse odd number pattern, triangle pattern. So let's write down the code for that. So in this, the only difference from the normal inverse triangle pattern is you have to check here that the number should not be divisible by 2. Then only you can select that number. So that's the only logic. So let's write down. So, okay, first again, now how many number of rows we want to print, that has to be declared. So number of rows, if suppose I want to display 6. Or, okay, let's take 5. Okay. The first for loop for the outer, for the number of rows, the outer for loop for number of rows. So int I, this will be, okay, so we'll go in, it is inverse triangle, right? So it has to start from max and decrement. Like first row will be the maximum number of numbers. Then second row, one less numbers. Third row, one less number, right? So it will start from number of rows itself. And it will, I should be greater than 0. And it will be I minus minus. Okay. Now the inner loop. Okay, before inner loop starts, we have to have a check that it is a odd number or not. So let's do that. If I mod 2 is not equal to 0, it means it's a odd number. If it is equal to 0, it's an even number. So then to go inside and write a for loop. For int j equals to 0, j will be less than equal to I. Okay. Then it will be j plus plus. Inside this, now here also you have to keep a check. Okay. Now, why to keep a check here? Okay, here one more thing is, now to print also you have to, basically to print we have to check the, that it is a odd number or even number. So that check should be over here also. That check cannot be done on j because j is starting from 0 each time and incrementing, and it's going till I only. So what we have to do is, there should be one more variable here. So we can initialize 2 variables in the same for loop, right? You know that this is a Java programming construct. So I'll initialize one more variable, maybe x, which is equal to, which will start from I and it will decrement itself. That is, it will be k minus minus. Okay, it's x, sorry. Yeah. So here we have to keep a check for this k now. So if k mod 2 is equal to 0, again why I'm writing k, so it's x mod 2 is equal to 0, then it should print system.out.print. What it should print? J with a space. Once this ends, this if loop ends here. So after that, we have to write system.out.println. Okay. Now let's see first, does it execute? Then I'll quickly explain the code as well. Okay, why is there a space coming after this? 1 second. The This for loop closes, if loop closes here, this for loop closes here, this if loop closes here. Okay. Why is this for? Okay. 1 second. Just let me have a look at it. Okay. Yeah, you can see here 135, 131. Let's give a higher number and check if it will be more representative and better to understand. So yes, you can see 1357, 135, 13 and 1. So this is what it says. So this was for checking that it is a odd number or even number. Okay. Before entering into the loop itself, I have put a check here that it should be a odd number. This I should be a odd number, then only it will go inside the loop. Why I have put a check here? Because you can see it is printing J every time here, right? Although the check is on X, it prints J. It means what? This J is somewhat related to, I mean, J is something which is getting printed. So J is something which should have a check that it is an odd number or even number as well, right? That's why before entering into this J loop itself, I have put a constraint here that it should not be equal to 0. The mod of 2 should not be equal to 0. Means if it is an odd number, then only you have to go inside the loop and do whatever check has to be done further. Okay. If we suppose, what, comment this line, then let's see, do we get the output? So yes, we don't get an output there. It means you have to have a check here as well for checking that it is a odd number or even number. Otherwise, it will print everything. Okay, so this was the output. So I hope the code is clear to you. So this was the demonstration or the code for printing inverse triangle pattern for odd numbers. Now let's check the binary number pattern program in Java. So binary number pattern program is basically what? Drawing or displaying different patterns just by the help of binary numbers, that is 0 and 1. For example, you can have zeros and ones arranged in various format, right? Like for example, I can have first row the 0, second row I can have 2 1, then I can have 3 zeros, then fourth row I can have 4 ones, then fifth row I can have 5 zeros. This is one pattern. Another pattern is you can have first row 0, then second row 0 1, then you can have 0 1 0, then you can have 0 1 0 1, then 0 1 0 1 0, right? Other pattern can be first row can have 1, then 1 0, then 1 0 1, then 1 0 1 0, then 1 0 1 0 1, then 1 0 1 0 1 0. This is also one pattern. So different ways of arranging these zeros and ones, that is binary numbers, is actually your binary number pattern program. So the example which we are going to see in the demonstration or the code is 0 0 1. First row, that's one 0, then second row 0 1, third row 0 1 0, fourth row 0 1 0 1, fifth row this. It means what? First row only one no character, that is your 0. Second row two numbers 0 and 1, two binary numbers. Third row three binary numbers. Fourth row four binary numbers. Fifth row five binary numbers. But it should be in alternate sequence also. 0 1 0 1 0 0 1 0 1, right? So two checks we have to do here. One is that first row only one element. Second row, so number of row, number of element. Second check will be that it should be alternate. 0 1 0 1 0 1, like that, right? So these are two things you have to keep in mind. Now let's see the demonstration or coding for this binary number pattern program in Java. And the code which we are going to write for is about this pattern. Okay, so let's go to the IDE and start typing the code. So I've already created the main class here and a main method here. Let's type the code here. So first I have to, how many rows I want to print. So number of rows, which is equal to maybe 5. Now I'll have for loop here. So first for loop will be again the outer for loop for number of rows. So it will be simple. starting from 1 to number of rows less than equal to, no, less than equal to, okay, it is number of rows then I plus plus. Okay, coming to the inner loop now. So for int j, which is equal to 1, j less than equal to I, then j plus plus. Okay, now inside this we have to keep a check that it should be alternate sequence 0 1 0 1 0 1. So for that, what we have to do, we need a if statement here. If j mod 2 is equal to 0, that is, it is divisible by 2, then system.out.print, what you have to print here? 1. Okay. Else, we have to print system.out.print. We have to print what? 0. Or place of writing as a string, I can write directly also 0, right? Same thing. Okay. Right? Then this else will end here. This if, where is if loop ending? Okay, this for loop ends here and this for loop ends here. So after this, there will be next line statement system.out.println. Let's check the code now. So yeah, you can see here it's 0 0 1 0 1 0 0 1 0 1 and this way. So why was this here odd even check? So this was that, see, if no, it has to j starting from 1 and it is going till I every time. So for the first, you see, so for the first, the value of j will be 1, okay, and j mod 2, that is 1 mod 2 is equal to 0. Yes, right? Sorry, 1 mod 2 is not equal to 0. It is 1. So it will come out of the loop, it will go to else and it will print 0. So this is for deciding that if it is even position, then it should print 1. If it is odd position, then it should print 0. So this j mod was here for deciding the position. So even position, you can see the second position, the fourth position are all ones. So this is for that. Checking that if it is even position, it should be 1, else it should be 0. So this was the demonstration or the code for printing a type of a pattern in using just the binary numbers, that is 0 and 1. Now let's summarize the session. So in this video, we discussed about the different patterns using Java programming. That is, we learned how to print or display the different patterns with the help of numbers, different patterns of strings, that is your alphabets, different patterns of special characters, that is your star. So we learned how to display or draw these with the help of Java programming. The basic concepts which are required for pattern programming, that is the loop concept, the for loop, the nested loops, do while loops. So we used all these looping constructs to write a program that displays a particular pattern in Java programming. Few named patterns which are very famous or quite asked in the interviews, like pyramid pattern, sandglass pattern, inverse pyramid pattern, triangle pattern, and many more we discussed in the session. So I hope you like the session. Thank you.
If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new update or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoy this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing, so make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video for any query or suggestions and I will respond to your comments.